You know, for over 100 years, a series of tiny controlled explosions has been the force that literally moves our world. So today, we're going to dive under the hood and really understand the brilliant, elegant, and surprisingly simple machine that makes it all happen, the internal combustion engine.
I mean, it sounds kind of nuts, doesn't it? How can a little bit of fuel and a tiny spark generate enough force to move thousands of pounds of metal down the highway? Well, that's the big mystery we're going to solve right now.
Okay, so before we get into all the moving parts, let's just step back and ask a basic question. At its heart, what is an engine actually trying to do? What's its whole purpose?
Right, so here's the key. An engine is basically an energy converter. Think of it as a three-step process. First, it takes the chemical energy locked inside a fuel like gasoline. Then it turns that into intense heat by, setting it on fire. And finally, it harnesses all that heat to create motion, what we call mechanical work. So it's chemical to heat to motion. That's the whole game.
So let's meet the two main components that make this whole energy conversion happen. You can kind of think of it like a stage in its star performer.
First up, we've got the cylinder. This is just a stationary, perfectly shaped tube. It's the contained space, the stage, where all the action is about to go down.
And here's our star performer, the piston. It's this solid plug that fits perfectly inside the cylinder, making a really tight seal. Its whole job is to get pushed violently by that explosion. And that back and forth motion it makes, that's exactly what we need to eventually turn the wheels. So we have our stage, the cylinder, and our star, the piston. Now let's watch the show. The whole thing is this really carefully choreographed dance, and it repeats itself thousands of times every single minute.
So the vast majority of cars out there use what's called a four-stroke engine. It's a design that was actually perfected way back in 1876. And it's just this beautiful four-step cycle that makes the whole thing work.
And you know what? The whole thing can be boiled down to a really simple, catchy rhythm. Suck, squeeze, bang, blow. Each of those words is one stroke, which is just one full movement of the piston, either up or down. So let's break this dance down step by step. Okay, step one is intake, or suck. A little valve opens up, and as the piston moves down inside the cylinder, it creates a vacuum. This sucks a fine mist of fuel and air into the chamber. It's almost like the engine is taking a deep breath. Next up is compression, the squeeze. The valves slam shut, sealing the chamber completely. Then the piston heads back up, squeezing that air and fuel mixture into a super tiny space. And this step is absolutely critical. By packing those molecules so close together, you're setting the stage for a much more powerful and violent explosion.
And here it is, the bang. This is the power stroke. With that mixture packed in as tight as it can get, a spark plug fires. And this isn't some slow burn, this is a practically instant explosion. The force from that expanding gas just slams the piston down. This is it. This is the one stroke that actually creates the power to move your car.
And finally, we have exhaust, the blow. Another valve opens up, and the piston, which is still moving from momentum, travels back up the cylinder and pushes all those used-up burnt gases out. The engine exhales, clears the room, and gets ready to do it all over again. Suck, squeeze, bang, blow. Over and over, thousands of times a minute. All right, so now that you get the basic four-stroke dance, we can look at how different engines put their own little spin on it. And the two most common types you'll see are in cars that run on petrol or gasoline versus diesel. Now, what's really interesting is that petrol and diesel engines get to that bang moment in totally different ways. A petrol engine, that's spark ignition, sucks in a pre-made mix of air and fuel, squeezes it, and then uses a spark plug to light it. A diesel engine, though, that's compression ignition. It's different. It only sucks in air. Then it compresses that air a lot. I mean, look at that compression ratio. It's way higher. This makes the air incredibly hot, and only then is the fuel injected, and it just instantly combusts in that super hot air. No spark plug needed. It also changes how you control them. With petrol, you control the quantity of the mixture, but with diesel, you control the quality by changing how much fuel you spray into the air. Okay, another big difference you'll find in engines is just how many strokes it takes to get one power cycle done. We've been talking about the four-stroke, but there's actually a simpler and in some ways punchier alternative. And that's the two-stroke engine. It basically crams that entire suck, squeeze, bang, blow cycle into just two piston strokes. It cleverly combines intake and exhaust with the other two strokes. So what's the result? You get a power stroke for every single revolution of the crankshaft. That's double what a four-stroke gives you. This makes them super light and powerful for their size, which is why you see them in things like chainsaws and dirt bikes. The trade-off for all that simplicity, though, is that they're just not as efficient and they produce more pollution. And that's why that smoother, cleaner, four-stroke design is what you'll find in almost every car.
So let's just wrap this up by putting this amazing invention into perspective for a second. It feels so modern and complicated, right? But its core ideas are actually incredibly old.
It's really kind of mind-blowing to think that the basic process we just walked through, that four-stroke dance, is about 150 years old. Sure, the materials are way better now and everything is computer-controlled, but the genius of that original cycle is still the heartbeat of how we get around today.
So if you walk away with anything from this explainer, here are the big takeaways. An engine's job is turning fuel into motion. The main action is a piston moving in a cylinder. The secret recipe is suck, squeeze, bang, blow. And pretty much every engine you'll encounter is just a different flavor of that same core idea.
For a century and a half, this same basic design has been tweaked and perfected, and it has powered our world. But as we look to the future, the story is obviously far from over. And that leaves us with a really important question to think about. What comes next? What's going to be the engine that powers our world for the next 150 years?